Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Natlan speculation miniseries. Today, I want to talk about some plots and features that we could see in Natlan. I'll be talking about the tribes and dragons of the nation, and how they could fit into the plot of Natlan's Archon quests. Now, this video does contain spoilers for the quests listed on screen now, so if you haven't done those, you have been warned. With all that said though, let's get right into the video. To start off this video, let's talk about the tribes that can be found within Natlan. According to the lore of both Talking Stick and Unfinished Reverie, there are 6 tribes that can be found within the nation of Pyro. Additionally, we learn from Lectuaire and Romaritime Harbor that each of these tribes has different rules, so perhaps they have unique cultures and customs as well. Now, not much is known about these tribes at the moment. Of course, not too much is known about Natlan in general right now, so that's not too much of a surprise. We haven't even met an NPC who is from Natlan yet, but I believe there's a reason for that. Perhaps it could be seen as incredibly disrespectful to leave your homeland in Natlan, or there could even be some sort of curse that affects people who leave the nation. There is a theory that Bennett is from Natlan, and that his bad luck stems from a curse like this. He does bear a striking resemblance to Ian-san, a future Natlan character, which adds to this theory. However, this video is about the plots, tribes, and dragons of Natlan, so I'll cover Bennett and Ian-san more in my video on the characters of Natlan. Getting back to the tribes though, it's time to speculate a bit more about them. I believe that each tribe is based in a different region or geographical area of Natlan. These locations include the canyons, the hanging trees, the spring source, the fertile lands, the mountain peaks, and the mines, which were all mentioned in either Talking Stick or Unfinished Reverie. Each of the locations mentioned could be referring to a different part of Natlan, where a different tribe would be based. Throughout the Natlan Archon quests, we could travel to all of them. In the story, we may have to visit each of the tribes to ask for their help in some sort of upcoming conflict. We could even be given a trial from each tribe to test different aspects of our character, and each trial we pass would gain us more allies from the tribes. Now, just because Natlan is a land of war, that doesn't mean it will be a primitive or barbaric nation. We learn from Adel in Bida Harbor that the youths of Natlan love street graffiti, showing off, and comparing fashionable trinkets. He also describes the nation as a colorful, contradictory, and charming place. Getting back to the geography of Natlan, I believe the use of the word contradictory here could be referring to the landscape of the nation. If each of the areas mentioned in the lore we have so far represents a different area of Natlan, then the landscape of the nation could vary drastically throughout. In the past, many nations have had similar themes throughout the whole nation in terms of landscape. There have been exceptions, of course, such as Sumeru's rainforest and desert, but I think that Natlan could take this idea a step further. Each of the areas mentioned earlier, plus the Mare Javari, would lead to a very unique nation. Additionally, this variety in landscape would make exploring Natlan a lot more fun, as there would always be new environments to discover. As for where these locations would fit in, I have some ideas for that too. The spring source, the fertile lands, and the hanging trees could be closer to Fontaine, located in the northern areas of Natlan. The canyons, the mountain peaks, the mines, and the Mare Javari would all be further south, splitting the nation into 2 distinct types of environments. When we first travel to Natlan in version 5.0, the first area we go to could be in the middle of these areas. This way, we would get a bit of both types of environment right away. As for how we would get to Natlan, I still think that Submerged Coast and Sumeru's Girdle of the Sands will be the way we go. Later on, in versions 5.1 and 5.2, the northern and southern areas of Natlan could also be added to the game. By the time the Archon quests wrap up, we will be able to explore the areas of each and every tribe in Natlan. Moving on though, it's time to talk about the dragons of Natlan. At the end of the Fontaine Archon quests, it was confirmed that we will be seeing dragons in Natlan, and it seems like they will have quite an important role here. In Natlan, dragons are known as saurians, and they seem to have good relations with the nation's tribes. From the lore of Talking Stick, we learn that they were used as mounts in the past, and treated as companions. As such, it could be possible for us to get our very own mount as a feature in Natlan. Of course, the extent of such a feature isn't yet known, but I still want to give my ideas for how this could work. First off, we have to discuss which dragon we will ride in Natlan. In my opinion, this dragon could very well be the Pyro Sovereign themselves. Perhaps when we first unlock a statue of the Seven in Natlan, they could sense our presence and meet with us. At the moment, they could be weak and require our help. In exchange for our help, they would allow us to ride upon their back. This feature could also be woven into the main story, and could tie back into the trials that I mentioned earlier. Each of the trials that we pass could help the Sovereign recover more of their power and unlock more of their abilities. You could still use this feature before progressing through the story, allowing newer players to still ride around with a dragon in Natlan. Of course, the upgrades would come with the story of the Archon quest, which would then open up more puzzles and adventures. However, there is the possibility of the Pyro Sovereign becoming a playable character. Neuvillette, the current Hydro Sovereign, is a playable character, so having the other Sovereigns as playable characters is definitely possible. If they do become playable, they couldn't exactly use themselves as a mount. Still though, there is a simple solution that can be done for this problem. As a playable character, they could walk around in a human form, but in situations where we would use a mount, they could just transform into their dragon form. Alternatively, the mount could be a traveler-only feature, though I think it would be a lot more fun if every character was able to use this feature. Now then, it's time to bring all these ideas together and discuss how both the tribes and dragons of Natlan could impact the story. Upon reaching Natlan and activating a statue of the Seven, we could be introduced to the Pyro Sovereign. This could take place at the very beginning of the Archon quests, or in a similar way to unlocking diving in Fontaine with a short cutscene. In this cutscene, the Pyro Sovereign could be alerted to our presence due to us activating the Statue of the Seven and receiving the Blessing of Pyro. They would then meet with us and ask for our help in restoring their power. As I said earlier, they would allow us to ride on their back in exchange for our help. This cutscene could be activated at any point before starting the Archon quest, allowing newer players to still use this feature without having to worry about progressing quickly. Of course, if you have progressed far enough, this cutscene could also directly lead into the Archon quest. As the story of the Archon quest progresses, we could visit each of the 6 tribes to help the Sovereign recover their strength. As I've said, each tribe could provide us with a trial, which would then reward us with an upgrade for the Sovereign. In terms of lore, this upgrade could be given to us from a primal fire of Natlan. Each tribe may be tasked with protecting one of these flames, and we could only obtain them by passing their trials. After successfully completing the trial, the Sovereign could obtain the flame, allowing them to grow stronger. Additionally, each trial that we pass could give us more information on Natlan and its tribes. This lore could include why we haven't seen Natlan NPCs in-game yet, or even more information relating to the stories of Talking Stick and Unfinished Reverie. Now then, if the Pyro Sovereign ends up being playable, I think they could release in version 5.2. This would be the update where the main Archon quest of Natlan ends, so it could also be when we complete the final trial. After obtaining the final flame, the Sovereign could gain the ability to shift into a human form. Alternatively, they could obtain this ability during an Archon quest in version 5.1. This would allow the Pyro Sovereign to be released in this update while saving the Pyro Archon for the next update. In any case, completing a trial with the Sovereign could also convince the tribes to help us against a common enemy in the future, mirroring the events of Talking Stick. They could assist us in the weekly boss fight, or help out against some other threat looming over Natlan's horizon. The Sovereign could also help out during the weekly boss fight, temporarily lending us their strength and giving us a power boost. As I discussed in a previous video, this weekly boss could be one of the top 3 Harbingers, so this help will definitely be needed. This weekly boss could also be an entirely different threat, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the tribes and dragons of Natlan. The version 4.7 special program is coming out later this week, so we could get our first brief look at Natlan very soon. In the meantime, if you want more Natlan lore, I recommend my videos on the Harbingers of Natlan, Unfinished Reverie, Tales of Teyvat, and the Mayor Jvari. I would love to hear what ideas you all have for the plots of Natlan in the comments below as well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sources and further readings are also in the description if you want to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.